Our next speaker writes in depth for the Liberty Bloc, Elliot Axelman.
This historic legislation marks the culmination of 245 years of increasing abuses of our natural rights by the tyrants in Washington, D.C. Regardless of the politicians or party in power, these abuses have continued to increase. In 1776, the people of New Hampshire seceded from the British Empire because they could no longer bear the abuses of the tyrannical government. By many measures, the actions of our current federal government are far more tyrannical than those of the government we seceded from back in 1776. To those who claim that the Civil War settled this issue, we ask, if might makes right, if fear of violent retribution keeps one in an abusive relationship, is that a reason to stay or more of a reason to separate? If you are tired of being forced to pay for perpetual wars in faraway places, history has shown us that the federal government has no real desire to end unnecessary military operations across the globe. If you are sick of the failed war on drugs, civil asset forfeiture, illegal warrantless immigration and sobriety checkpoints, you should support independence for New Hampshire. Those and many more violations of liberty have roots in D.C. Insanity could be defined as doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. We have been peaceful, patient, hardworking citizens and obedient serfs to D.C. for 245 years. We have exhausted every method of reforming the federal government imaginable. Our overlords in D.C. have continued to increase their powers while minimizing our liberties and violating our rights. We have campaigned and voted for the most pro-liberty candidates. We have called and emailed legislators, and we have signed many petitions. We have tried protests and lawsuits. Nothing has worked. With each passing day, we see that the values of New Hampshire citizens are diverging from the values held by those in D.C. and the other states of the Union. The people of California and New York simply have different values than we do. Voters of some states prefer socialism, gun control, mandatory masks and vaccinations, compulsory government education, prohibition of substances, and many more violations of liberty. And that's okay. They are different people with different values. We no longer find that we have more in common with the Union than we do with other nations around the world. Reasonable people would not believe that the people of Ukraine should be forced to live under the exact same set of laws as those in Kenya. Forcing two or more opposing cultures together in perpetuity simply cannot end well. The federal government steals around half of our annual salaries, and through agencies like the NSA, FBI, ATF, EPA, CBP, 400 total agencies, and 4 million total federal agents, uses the money to abuse us, spy on us, and control the economy, costing over $2 trillion in economic damage per year. Many criminal justice issues and much of corona fascism results from federal money and influence. The increasingly disturbing surveillance and police state stem primarily from D.C. These and many other issues would cease to exist if we severed ties with D.C. and governed ourselves. The people of New Hampshire, innocent, peaceful, hardworking patriots, have not had the opportunity to vote on their relationship with D.C. politicians since a few delegates decided to join the Union 240 years ago, with the understanding that the federal government would always protect our natural rights and never violate the Constitution. How well has that worked out? Never in our lifetime have we had the chance to even make our voice heard on the question of whether to govern ourselves. If you do not yet believe that we should give up on saving the Union and fixing D.C., how much more freedom must we lose before you are convinced that we cannot shrink the federal government back to its original size and that the only option is leaving and governing ourselves? A vote for CACR 32, no matter which side of independence you stand on, is a vote to trust the citizens of this great state with their own future. A vote against CACR 32 expresses the belief that only a small group of people in Washington, D.C. should control the lives of everyone in this state and all of our descendants. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot.